we found one bank account with $780,000. So this isn't a bank account that he disclosed. We find this bank account, and the attorney runs down and levies on this bank account and wipes it out within a matter of 48 hours. Um,
Boy, I
and
don't have a calculator, but the ROI 5K to 780 is pretty good.
yeah, yeah.
So obviously we're back with Brian Bauer, founder of PHENIX, talking today about asset search. So Brian, obviously we've worked together for a long time. I know you guys at PHENIX do a number of different investigative services. Asset search is sort of what you're known for. You, in the last 30 years, have overseen and personally executed as many or more asset searches and judgment recoveries as anybody out there. Asset search, as I think of it, is someone's playing broke, and we know they're not, and someone has to find the money. How did you end up getting into the position of asset search specialization, and what should I be thinking about in terms of asset search?
We live in a society now where a lot of people screw over other people, and there's either business deals or investments gone wrong or just outright fraud as it relates to, hey, give me $1 million, I'll invest it. I have a great idea. Let's put the mayonnaise in the tuna fish can, to where they just take your $1 million and then they skate. So maybe in certain situations, and we have clients all the time that say, yeah, I spent hundreds of thousands in litigation for my $3 million judgment, but this individual hasn't paid a dollar and the court hasn't done anything to assist. So where this has evolved, and there's a real need and still, and I'd probably say there's a few $1 trillion out there on the books, as of today, just in the way of judgment. So clients will come to us and get stuck to say, hey, I did all the heavy lifting, 2 years of litigation. Here I am. I have my multi-million-dollar judgment and the court won't help me. And there's no mechanism in order to collect from this individual. So what we try to do and assist is find this person's hidden assets, bank accounts, brokerage, investment accounts, other properties. They're very clever. They'll terminate company ABC LLC that had the judgment against them and fraudulently convey all their assets to the new DEF LLC and create that and move those assets over there and say, see, hey, we have nothing, right? And so although that individuals think that they're clever, not ultimately complicated to connect the dots, follow that, conveyance, those transfers, and to find those hidden assets.
So is this kind of like, on the nerd marketing side, we think of there's always this arms race between like the cybersecurity folks and the hackers. It's the people moving the money around and then you guys chasing, trying to find it. Is it the same type of deal?
Yeah, it would light your hair on fire to know in today's world that there's a whole cottage industry to convince people to loan you money or invest in some harebrained scheme to where they just know that they're going to take your money. Sorry, Scott, I went and invested it, but didn't work out. Yeah, granted, I bought a new Lamborghini and a second house on the beach, but you're SOL. So there's this whole cottage industry now of it's much better to go ahead and do something like that versus rob a bank, because law enforcement gets to the point to where, hey, that was a civil agreement between you guys, you fight it out. Fast forward to what I was just mentioning, you go, you take it to court, you win, and he's still driving the Ferrari. He's still in the nice house, but now he's put the house in a trust, put the Ferrari in a straw buyer or his buddy's name or his spouse's name that doesn't have the name on the judgment. And then voila, I don't need to pay.
Jesus. I always go back to this idea of what's on TV and what's in the media. We all know the like Judge Joe Brown and Judy. It's two insane exes squabbling over a $600 veterinarian bill or something. You're not typically playing in that world. These are big cases. What does a big asset search case look like? Is this business suing business? Is this brother, sister fighting over an estate? Like, what does it look like for a big asset search?
Yeah, typically what you could imagine is anything that comes out the other end for litigation. So there's this prejudgment types of asset investigations where it's, hey, before we sue this individual, let's make sure the juice is worth the squeeze. And let's do a little bit of investigation to see if it's even worth pursuing or if they truly have assets. So I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, a client called and was over the moon and say, hey, Brian, you remember that rapper you did the investigation on for us? And I, joking with him saying, which one, go figure a rapper pays their bills and is financially sound, right?
Imagine.
Um, so in this particular case, this rapper, I think, racked up something like $3 million in debt on some swanky Beverly Hills mansion and never paid a dime on it and then just skated. Um, and so I think that they might have paid us $5K to do the investigation on that first round. And as we did the first round, on this $3 million judgment, he wasn't paying anything for. We found one bank account with $780,000. So this isn't a bank account that he disclosed. We find this bank account and the attorney runs down and levies on this bank account and wipes it out within a matter of 48 hours.
Boy, I don't have a calculator, but the ROI 5K to 780 is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, I joke tongue in cheeks oftentimes with clients when they say, well, I don't know if this person's collectible on this $3 million judgment. Well, if you're not prepared to spend something, or 5K, for example, I simply just say, okay, sell me the judgment for 5K. It's your lucky day.
That's a classic.
Now for you 3 million. Well, no, I wouldn't want to do that. Well, you shouldn't do that. And that wouldn't be a very good deal. And so it comes down to, the attorneys can do all the heavy lifting, get that judgment, but then they often get stuck and don't know if they're asking the rapper to disclose where his bank accounts are through the legal means and through the court, through discovery, and he's giving you the, hey, yeah, I only have one account over here for, $1,000 and not disclosing, the little honeypot, right? And so that's where we're extremely valuable and come in and would go and in that scenario find that bank account. So fast forward, good investment, 5K. They go ahead, get almost 800K. And now they're saying, hey, we want to devote more monies, what I affectionately call phase 2, kind of scorched earth approach, where I'm going to go, interview your rabbi and your priest and your next door neighbor and your business partners and anyone. And hey, by the way, that was us that just, took your 800K. And so it's all about maximum pressure, getting it to where they may owe other monies, but ultimately, how do we get this 800-pound gorilla off our back?
Say I rent one of my many Bel Air mansions out to a rapper and I end up getting jammed up. They don't pay. Is it me, the owner of the mansion, that's reaching out to you typically because my attorney has met an end, or is it the attorney that's reaching out to you typically on behalf of this mansion owner?
It's a little bit of both, but typically it's going to be the attorney. That private individual didn't know where to go, what to do, needs that judgment in order to really enforce. So pre-judgment, I could certainly say, hey, I looked into Scott. Scott's got $1 million, but I have no legal means in order to go ahead and take that from Scott until I go through the legal process. So typically it's at the end where you have that recorded judgment, and then that individual's crying from the mountaintop with the attorney saying, okay, great, this is great, but what do I do next, right? And so this is where we partner with thousands of attorneys on an annual basis to do these types of investigations. And as we find those liquid assets or those physical assets, then the attorney can act quickly, go ahead and attach those and recover.
When the attorney engages Phoenix, how does this help them generate more revenue or fees? Are you billing the attorney directly, and then the attorney can bill forward to the client however they choose, or how does the finances of that work?
Yeah, oftentimes I think it's just innocent enough that the attorneys don't know where to turn to as it relates to find those assets. So we're pretty unique, and there's just not many services out there in the country. Most of investigators are going to regurgitate public records that are really not going to move the needle when it comes to true finances. So cash is king. So finding those monies to instantly levy on is the most important. So we try to educate the attorneys out there that there is an option, and more attorneys just feeds on itself to where attorneys find that we're their secret weapon as it relates to finding these assets. And then that kind of opens up the log jam again for that attorney to now go ahead and levy against those financial institutions, or put liens on property that we found, or file additional emergency TROs to freeze assets that they fraudulently transferred. So oftentimes, we're more of an important piece than actually the litigation itself, because if you don't know where, the money is, then you're kind of stuck.
When you say secret weapon, do you think your ability to find assets is more of this proprietary process and technology, or is it one of those things like almost everything, experience doing it many more times than everyone else out there? You've just seen patterns manifest that allow you to look in the right place. What do you think the secret weapon is, Phoenix versus a more novice firm?
Yeah, good question. I think in today's society, they think I would put in your name, hit enter, and then it would spit out all the bank accounts in which you
Yeah.
you own, which certainly would be great. But if that was the case, then everybody would charge $20 for it, right? And
Yeah.
so it's not the case. It's a bit of an art form. You have to have lots of different resources. You have to reverse engineer that person's financial makeup in order to go backwards to figure out. And then really you have to, like any financial investigation, you have to follow the dots. And when clients just, hey, unequivocally, is this guaranteed or this foolproof? No, it's not. It's truly a financial investigation where once you connect the dots and find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it's very, very satisfying.
In marketing, I'm kind of in the business of wild oversimplification. So it sounds like to me you just have a resource network that is wider and more expansive than most people, so you can turn over more stones more quickly, and you have a much higher likelihood of hitting the honeypot.
Yeah. So we have a team of investigators that do nothing but these special asset investigations. And we have dozens of proprietary resources that we're tapping into and taking bits of information and trying to put that puzzle together in order to follow the dotted line. Understanding as the way that the world shrinks now, we see lots of this money moved overseas, internationally, moved into Bitcoin, then moved into Bitcoin wallets. And so oftentimes when they're being deposed or they're in an arbitration and they're turning their pockets inside out and say, see, I'm broke. And that's, well, hey, I appreciate you bringing that up, because actually we found through our investigation, we found 3 bank accounts that you conveniently didn't disclose to the court. Oh yeah, I forgot about those. Oh, you mean that $100,000 deposit you made last week?
Yeah.
Right. And so judges don't like that, and you can get, emergency orders. And thing. So it varies, but it can be very complicated. Some of the judgments we work on are 20, 50, $100 million judgments with parent companies and sister companies and moving overseas. So yeah, it just comes in all shapes and sizes.
If I'm this rapper and I don't disclose these accounts to, a civil court, is there a criminal nature of this in hiding money, or is this all civil, or you don't play in that sandbox, you don't care once we find the money and settle the civil side?
Yeah, unfortunately, and there's not much teeth in our judicial world, and so yeah, lying and purge yourself and all of those things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when the judge admonishes, but at the end of the day, I don't see many people going to jail because they were discovered hiding their ass.
So the mansion owner might have got her 780K, but the rapper might be at her neighbor's house now running up another bill.
Sure. So it didn't take long, Scott, before, once we levied on that 780K, that the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris ended up in some other company's name. And oh, now we'll just rent them and we won't own them. uh,
Yeah.
right. And so there, different games played, with those types of things.
That's what you mean when I know you've addressed a couple times this concept of like slamming all of the levers and dials at once. So it like the element of surprise, so they don't have an opportunity to, lose a little bag of money and then hide the big bags in the cars.
Yeah, exactly. So what ultimately happens, we coach clients is on that phase one of the investigation, we need to do everything discreet and use that element of surprise and pull all those levers at the same time. Because once you start levying bank accounts and they go to the supermarket to buy milk and eggs and the debit card doesn't work because we took all their money, immediately those other accounts start to be closed out and the money goes under the mattress. Yeah, or assets just start to be transferred to adult children, spouses, things like that.
So this really does look very much like someone, most cases, it sounds like it looks like someone loses a judgment. They do the Monopoly man, pull the pockets out, they're empty. And then so begins the asset search. Like phase two of the case is let's go find what we won and are entitled to. I want to close this topic out. This, I can't get my eye off the lion behind you. Do you remember the first lion you speared, like the first 7+ figure asset search that PHENIX Investigations did?
Um, yeah, it was actually against the Venezuelan government.
Oh my God, that's a whole episode there, I'm sure.
So it was a large scale investigation, and a company started a gold mine in Venezuela, spent about $900 million, operated there for 2 years. And once they started to find gold, immediately, I believe it was Chavez who said, "Oh, you don't have your paperwork in order. You got 48 hours to get out." And so they literally stole that gold mine where I think that they were mining, and as they were hitting gold, something like $3 billion or something. So they had an international judgment. A world court assessed the judgment against Venezuela, and we were tasked to find any and all assets within the U.S. borders that was owned by the Venezuelan government, track ships that were coming into port. And if they were coming into port, they could literally seize the entire ship. So,
That sounds like a movie plot. How, when was this? Did that make the news or?
I'm not sure if it made the news because you would be surprised. It happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So this was a private company, and so there's all of this craziness as it relates to these assets in different types of court cases, and some of them are tragic. Some of them are, took a couple's entire life savings, defrauded them on some good investment to where they're out vacationing in Bora Bora, or you see these Instagram punks out there on the private jets and this and that, and they're just running these fraud schemes to, bilk good people out of their life savings.
Good God. That's a fun life's pursuit, is finding those people.
Oh, my illness ultimately is, as I start going, I'm a dog with a bone, and even when the client doesn't have enough resources to go forward, I just want to continue to go because, oftentimes the pukes and the scammers behind that, you just really want to bring them to justice and really hit them where it hurts.
Yeah, I think that one thing that connects all humanity is it feels pretty good to see a bad guy get punched in the gut.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I always say you can give them a black eye, but that heals in a week. But if you go ahead and levy and take all of their cash, that's a lot more painful and doesn't heal overnight.
Yeah, it's hard to be a rapper with an empty bank account. Brian, that's all the time we have today. I didn't expect to talk about lions, rappers, the Venezuelan government, but every time we get going, it spirals into something. So excited to talk next time. Again, thanks for dedicating the time today.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. Look forward to the next one.